The award for the best performance by an actress, Grace Kelly for The Country Girl.
What does it take to win an Oscar, become the most famous actress in the world, and then give it all up for a man you barely know?
Although even in Hollywood, my private life was pretty much my own. When I married, my private life became public, and I really had no privacy at all.
In 1955, Grace Kelly was the queen of Hollywood. At just 25 years old, she had an Academy Award, a string of classic films with Alfred Hitchcock, and the adoration of millions. She was the epitome of elegance, a cool, untouchable blonde who commanded the screen. A year later, she was gone. She had traded her throne in Hollywood for a real one, marrying Prince Rainier of Monaco in a wedding watched by 30 million people. On the surface, it was the ultimate fairy tale. But behind the palace walls, a different story was unfolding. A story of a woman who, in her most honest moments, admitted that happiness was not a perpetual state she could live in. A woman who warned the future Princess of Wales that royal life would only get worse. This isn't the story of a girl who became a princess and lived happily ever after. It's the story of a woman who became a prisoner of her own fairy tale and the devastating price she paid for a perfect life. So how does the most envied woman in the world end up spending 26 years longing for the life she left behind? Grace Patricia Kelly was born on November 12, 1929, into a wealthy and fiercely competitive Irish Catholic family in Philadelphia. Her father, Jack Kelly, was a self-made millionaire, a 3-time Olympic gold medalist in rowing, and a man who had very specific expectations for his children. He was a charismatic, powerful figure who expected his children to be athletic, driven, and, above all, winners. Grace, with her quiet demeanor and artistic inclinations, was often seen as the odd one out in the boisterous Kelly clan. Her father openly disapproved of her chosen career, viewing acting as, in his words, a slim cut above streetwalker. But Grace possessed a quiet determination that her father consistently underestimated. After being rejected from Bennington College due to low math scores, she pursued her dream, auditioning for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. She was accepted, and for the next few years, she worked tirelessly, modeling and appearing in dozens of live television dramas. She was disciplined, professional, and utterly serious about her craft. She practiced her speech with a tape recorder. She studied her scripts with the focus of a scholar. She was not a girl who stumbled into stardom. She was a woman who built it, brick by brick, in direct defiance of a father who told her she couldn't. Her big break came in 1952, when she was cast opposite Gary Cooper in the classic Western High Noon. The film was a massive success, and suddenly, Hollywood took notice of the elegant blonde with the cool, reserved beauty. Her rise was meteoric. In just a few short years, she became one of the biggest stars in the world. In 1954, she starred in 5 films, including 3 that would become classics: Dial M for Murder, Rear Window, and The Country Girl. For her role in The Country Girl, playing the long-suffering wife of an alcoholic actor, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress. She was just 25 years old, but she had conquered Hollywood. She was at the very top of her game. But then, at a film festival on the French Riviera, she took a photograph that would change the course of her life forever. To understand what she was walking away from, you first need to understand what she had built. And nobody understood Grace Kelly's power better than Alfred Hitchcock. He saw in her a fascinating contradiction. A cool, elegant exterior that hinted at a fiery passion beneath the surface. He called it sexual elegance. He cast her in 3 of his most iconic films, and in doing so created the archetype of the Hitchcock blonde, a woman who was beautiful, intelligent, and just a little bit dangerous. In Rear Window, she was the impossibly chic fashion editor who solves a murder from her boyfriend's apartment window. In To Catch a Thief, she was the wealthy American heiress who toys with Cary Grant on the winding roads of the French Riviera. The very same roads that would, 27 years later, claim her life. She said it herself. Mr. Hitchcock taught me everything about cinema. It was thanks to him that I understood that murder scenes should be shot like love scenes, and love scenes like murder scenes. It was this image, the epitome of American glamour and sophistication, that she brought with her to the Cannes Film Festival in April 1955. As part of a publicity stunt, a photo session was arranged with the ruler of the tiny, glamorous Principality of Monaco, Prince Rainier III. Rainier was, at the time, one of the world's most eligible bachelors. He was the ruler of a fairy tale kingdom, but he had a very real problem. Monaco was in danger of being annexed by France if he failed to produce an heir. He needed a wife, and a Catholic one at that. The meeting was brief, the photo was taken, and Grace returned to America. But a correspondence began, and by the end of the year, Prince Rainier was in Philadelphia, asking for her hand in marriage. The courtship, by any modern standard, was remarkably short. They had spent very little time together, but the world was enchanted. It was a real-life fairy tale. And for Grace, it meant making an impossible choice. The wedding, in April 1956, was a spectacle unlike any other. It was a 2-day affair, a civil ceremony followed by a lavish religious wedding in Monaco's St. Nicholas Cathedral. Grace's wedding dress, a gift from MGM Studios, was a masterpiece of silk, lace, and pearls created by 36 seamstresses over 6 weeks. The guest list included Hollywood royalty and European aristocracy. It was, as one biographer later wrote, the first modern event to generate media overkill. 30 million people watched it on television. It was the most watched event in the world since the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. But beneath the surface of the fairy tale, there was a contract. In marrying Rainier, Grace had to give up her career. At 26 years old, at the height of her fame and talent, she retired from acting. Her final film, High Society, was released just a few months after her wedding. In it, she sings a duet with Bing Crosby called True Love. It was a fitting and deeply poignant farewell to the world she was leaving behind. She had traded her Hollywood kingdom for a real one, and the gates were closing behind her. She would never make another film, and she would never again be simply Grace Kelly. Life in Monaco was not the fairy tale the world imagined. The palace was a formal, rigid environment, governed by centuries of protocol. Grace, the independent American career woman, found herself in a role for which she had no training and no preparation. She was a princess, but she was also a foreigner, an outsider in a closed and often critical society. The Monegasque aristocracy could be cold and unwelcoming. The press was relentless, and her husband, while not unkind, was the ruler of a country with all the duties and responsibilities that entailed. He was, as Grace herself noted in her 1966 interview with Barbara Walters, definitively the head of the household. She was also aware of how they saw her. "I've been accused of being cold, snobbish, distant. Those who know me well know that I'm nothing of the sort. If anything, the opposite is true. But is it too much to ask to want to protect your private life, your inner feelings?" She threw herself into her new duties with the same discipline she had brought to her acting career. She became the president of the Red Cross of Monaco and founded Aide Mondiale, a charity for children's rights that gained consultative status with UNICEF and UNESCO. She had 3 children, Caroline, Albert, and Stephanie. She cultivated a passion for flower pressing and poetry. She built a life, a real and meaningful one. But she was deeply, privately lonely. Her friends were in America. Her career was a distant memory. And the world she had built for herself, the world of studios and scripts and the creative freedom of the cinema, was gone. In 1962, Alfred Hitchcock offered her the lead role in his new film Marne. It was a complex, challenging part, and Grace was desperate to do it. She had been longing for a way back to the work she loved, but the people of Monaco were outraged at the idea of their princess playing a kleptomaniac on screen. The public outcry was so great that she was forced to turn down the role. It was a devastating blow, a clear and painful sign that the door to her old life was now permanently closed. The woman who had once told Hitchcock everything she had learned was now forbidden from using what she knew. She became a master of projecting an image of serene contentment, of fulfilling her duties with grace and dignity. But in private moments, the cracks in the facade would show. She had said it herself in an interview that most people glossed over at the time.
I've had many happy moments in my life, yes. I don't think being happy is a perpetual state that anyone can be in. No, his life isn't that way. But I suppose I have a certain peace of mind, yes.
In 1981, at a royal event in London, she met the newly engaged Lady Diana Spencer. Seeing the young woman overwhelmed by the press and the weight of royal expectation, Grace reportedly took her aside. She looked at the young woman who was about to walk the same path she had walked, and she told her, with a world-weary sense of humor that barely concealed the sadness beneath it, "Don't worry, dear. It'll only get worse." On September 13th, 1982, Grace was driving back to Monaco from her country home, Roque-Achel, with her 17-year-old daughter, Stephanie. What almost nobody knows is that Grace should never have been behind the wheel that day. She hated driving. After a previous car crash in Monaco in the 1970s, she had sworn off driving entirely and always used a chauffeur. But that morning, she had loaded the back seat of the car with dresses and hat boxes. There was simply no room left for the chauffeur. He offered to make a second trip for the clothes. Grace refused and insisted she would drive herself. A decision over a pile of dresses. That is all it was. But on the winding, treacherous roads of the Moyenne Corniche, the same roads she had driven with Cary Grant in To Catch a Thief, she suffered a mild cerebral hemorrhage. She lost control of the car, a 1972 Rover which plunged 100 feet down a mountainside. Stephanie survived, suffering a hairline fracture of a vertebra. But Grace's injuries were catastrophic. She was taken to the hospital in Monaco, where she was declared brain dead. The next day, on September 14th, with no chance of recovery, Prince Rainier made the heartbreaking decision to turn off her life support. She was only 52 years old. She had been Princess of Monaco for just 26 years. The world was in shock. The fairy tale had come to a brutal, tragic end. Her funeral was a somber affair, attended by royalty, heads of state, and the Hollywood friends she had never forgotten. Cary Grant, her co-star and friend, wept openly. Princess Diana, the young woman she had warned just a year earlier, was there to pay her respects. Grace Kelly, the Princess of Monaco, was laid to rest in the Grimaldi family vault. A final, permanent resident of the kingdom she had never truly called home. Grace Kelly herself said it best. "The idea of my life as a fairy tale is itself a fairy tale." Grace Kelly's story is one of the most enduring of the 20th century, not because it was a fairy tale, but because it wasn't. It's a story about the choices we make, the sacrifices we endure, and the often unseen cost of a perfect life. She was a woman of immense talent and ambition who gave up a kingdom of her own making for a role that demanded her silence. She played the part of a princess with the same professionalism she brought to every role. But unlike the roles she played for Hitchcock, this one had no final cut, no director to call, "That's a wrap," no way to step out of character at the end of the day. Her legacy lives on in the films she made, in the Hermès bag that bears her name, in the style that still influences designers 70 years later. But perhaps her most honest legacy is in the questions her life continues to ask. What is the price of a perfect image? What do we lose when we trade our own dreams for someone else's story? And what might Grace Kelly have become had she been allowed to remain simply herself? What do you think is the most tragic part of Grace Kelly's story? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.